I deserve love and kindness and care, regardless of everything else, And so that to me is kind of like the heart of compassion. And I think too, for many years prior to the breakdown and really learning what some of this stuff was about, I kind of thought compassion was a little bit like a permission slip and that I wouldn't really ever get anywhere if I was compassionate. I think a lot of us think this, and in the book I joke about it that it's like, oh, if we're compassionate means we'll sit on the couch eating bonbons and watching TV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Truth That Heals podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today's guest is a wellness coach and also is the author of The Light Switch Myth. Our guest today is coming all the way from Canada. Please welcome Kerisma Vere. Kerisma, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Ryan. Thank you very much for having me. This is a beautiful opportunity to sit here and share and contribute to what I think your podcast is very meaningful.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for also connecting with me. And I can't wait to connect this with the audience. So, to get started, can you share with us what is it that you do as a wellness coach?
I pretty much have a holistic approach to change, growth, healing, recovery. Um, uh, as a coach, I think it's still fair to be trauma informed. I'm very much engaged in the conversation happening within our society these days from people like Kristen Neff and Gabor Mate and Tara Brock and Brene Brown and others that are bringing in my a more contemporary look at mental health, addiction, trauma, and healing. And so the coaching is a little bit of my attempt to be a part of that movement and that conversation going on. And it's also a way to make some of my own pretty nightmarish experiences throughout life a little bit more meaningful. I heard a podcast by Glennon Doyle about transforming our trauma, transforming our pain um, through art. And then we take something that is this and we make it into something that is this. So my coaching and my book is my way of doing that. It's taking some really difficult experiences in my own life and transforming it into something that has and can help other people by, I very firmly believe my own experience in reading books and listening to songs and other things is that when human beings have the courage to be really honest, then we touch other people's hearts. And we go beyond the stereotypes that society often presents that can leave many of us feeling very alone. So in getting the truth out there, it's just like, oh, okay, I'm not alone. And then too, with my experience of healing and recovery, like I want other people to know that that's possible. So I know what it's like to struggle. And I know, I think my passion is really the relationship we have with ourselves. And I think I've yet to meet one person who doesn't have some little part of them that's hard on themselves. But, for many of us, it's more extreme than that with like, low to no self-worth and really not liking ourselves and having no experience of unconditional love. And so I would say that the primary focus of my coaching is sort of helping people move a little bit along the path of developing a kinder, more nurturing relationship with themselves, which in my opinion is like sort of the foundation of creating any kind of change in your life if it's going to last, and also leads to like better quality of life and better quality of connection with ourselves, but with others as well.
And how is life for you in connection with the connection with yourself, relationship with having, this way of thinking. Was this always your mindset, or is this something that perhaps came later in your life?
Yeah, it's definitely not always been my mindset. I grew up in a very what seemed like a very normal kind of family, but actually wasn't. My needs weren't getting met. I wasn't being validated or seen. I wasn't being kept safe. There was a lot of there was a lot of violence and bullying and gaslighting and um, criticism and negative types of mirroring. And I pretty much internalized all of that. Particularly, when we're such little children, we have no other way of explaining it other than to look to ourselves because it's not even safe to identify how threatening our environments are. So, um, from a pretty early age, I started to develop self-hatred and self-loathing and as alongside pretty severe dissociation because there were truths and feelings and experiences that at that time it was not safe for me to know or hold or be with. And it's really only been later in my life that it's actually been kind of safe enough to open up those areas of my life. So as a teenager, there was a lot of self-loathing, and I knew that was wrong. But I thought, like I thought it was something that I could have overcome with my thoughts. Like, I just won't think that way. I just won't feel that way. And it was such a deeper problem than that. And I worked on it throughout my life. I've been in and out of counseling most of my life, but the one counselor I worked with, I think actually had a lot more biases than I was aware, and I gave her a lot more power and authority than I probably um, should have, but I had come a long way to feeling better about myself, changing the relationship with myself. I, had done a lot of the things that are mainstream in society, but really what it ended up being was a lot of toxic positivity, a lot of spiritual bypassing, and a lot of making my self-worth and deservedness and based on what I was doing. Like I got clean in my 30s and I had 14 years of clean and I actually started the coaching practice at that point and I started working out, got fit and lost weight. I was the president of a union and I was doing just a really good job in a leadership role of bringing social justice and good kinds of values into the world in a way that made me feel good. But this whole quality of life and feeling better about myself and everything, I did not know it at the time, but it was that it was built on a faulty foundation. The foundation was still one of trauma that had never actually been dealt with. And all of those feeling good about myself were coming from, or they were coming from, how well I was doing and how I was um, measured success by doing and ideas of success. And what happened was I actually ended up having a complete nervous breakdown and having to reevaluate absolutely everything and ended up learning how to come at it from a whole different place where your self-worth kind of comes from just being a human being, and I'm now actually thriving in many ways and those areas get me quite excited and everything, but I'm always careful to come back that the love and worth that I have for myself isn't based on any of those kinds of things because any of us can lose any of that stuff at any time, But it's a bit of a passion and a bit of surprise to me how few of us are actually taught that we are worthy and deserving just because we are, just because we're human, without having to do or be. And so many of us have spent our lives trying to twist ourselves into versions of who we think we're supposed to be worthy. So I definitely lived a lot of my life in that kind of style, and it's probably been mostly the last 10 years that I've had an entirely different kind of approach to it.
And I was looking at your bio over like on I believe on Threads or Instagram. also on the website that you have, to just kind of familiarize myself with the work that you do. And something that caught my attention, I had to write it down, was helping create sustainable, compassionate change. And the word that stood out to me was compassionate. Now, in your journey towards not only healing, but reconnecting with your authentic self, when did you discover the power of compassion in your own life?
It was probably after my breakdown when I got lucky and well, first I was hospitalized and that was not lucky, and I actually got ignored and things got a lot worse, and it became sort of catatonic and had amnesia and was really not well. But I ended up connecting with an addictions counselor who was just in the process of launching into her trauma therapy, and she was able to start treating me for trauma. And I showed up, and I was every way that my life had fallen apart. I'd lost the coaching, I'd started smoking again, I had relapsed, I had lost all of my friends, I had lost my parents, I had lost everything except for the roof over my head. And I was so re-triggered. The trauma had just come back, and all of the work that I had done on having a kinder relationship with myself was out the door. I was just right back to self-blame, self-hatred, and just such a narrow view of how everything that had happened leading up to that breakdown had been my fault. And I was so I was in so much despair. And this counselor was using a trauma-informed lens that was based a lot in compassion, and sort of started to slowly help me see that things were not my fault. I started to see, a red flag for me to tell when I'm not in compassion is I know my critic has a very narrow lens.
Mhm.
It likes to make judgments. You did this because of this, and the compassionate lens is like, wow, let's look at all the whole big picture, Let's look at the big picture, and there's some pretty valued maybe this isn't the behavior you want to do, or maybe that wasn't, like the best outcome, but let's look at the everything that went into that. And then I pulled compassion. I always wanted unconditional love growing up, and I didn't have it. And then I sought it out in other people my whole life. But it's been part of that compassion-based living and approach to understand, like, that unconditional love needs to come from me first, and we hear that saying, you can't love anybody till you love yourself. And I think most of us interpret that to be a whole bunch of different things. And I always thought, well, that's baloney, because I do. And but it is, I've discovered it is true, because I don't think I was ever really able truly receive that love, not unconditionally, until I started to learn how to give it to myself. And as sort of another theme of the book too is that it's not, I often thought that loving yourself and these other things, being compa like it was a decision you made. I will be nicer to myself, or I will love myself, right? And affirmations and other kinds of stuff that have their place, but I don't think address real deep trauma. Um, what I've learned through the compassion-based living is, like, no, it's actions. It's every little way that I show up for myself. It's um it's the treating myself with kindness, whether or not I approve of my behaviors, whether or not it was what I wanted to do, or how I envisioned things, or the expectations I have for myself. But it's just that, I deserve love and kindness and care, regardless of everything else, And so that to me is kind of like the heart of compassion. And I think too, for many years prior to the breakdown, and really learning what some of this stuff was about, I kind of thought compassion was a little bit like a permission slip, and that I wouldn't really ever get anywhere if I was compassionate. I think a lot of us think this, and in the book I joke about it that it's like, oh, for compassionate means we'll sit on the couch eating bonbons and watching TV. And it's like, um, and so I was a little bit dubious, and it took a lot of practice day after day, and it took going to counseling twice a week to have somebody mirror it back and remind me, and mirror it back and remind me, because I like to think of it as the car, I'm on the car and I know how to get from here to there a certain way, and I've been going that way my entire life. So yeah, I need that co-pilot to kind of help remind me, yeah, there's a different way to get there. And I was quite skeptical that compassion would provide the same kind of results that, um, that being hyper vigilant or identifying what was wrong or being strict and stern with myself would. But out of necessity, I began to really embrace and try the different compassionate approaches, and I was flabbergasted because it actually works so much better as a motivator. And I find that the other kinds of approaches I had learned in my life anyway, they added layers. I often think of it as like putting a backpack of boulders on you're already trying to go up the hill. So let's add some boulders. And that's supposed to make it easier. And it's like it doesn't, right? And whereas compassion comes in, and it's not that going up the hill isn't still hard, it is, but it kind of takes some of those boulders off, and it kind of says it's okay to stop here, pause before you start sliding too far down. Just take a step back, but like let's just be here. Let's acknowledge our struggle. The accountability piece isn't that we don't continue trying to climb up that mountain. We're not saying, "Oh, this is hard, so you don't have to do it." We're saying, "This is hard, but this is important to me, and I understand why it's hard for you. So here, let me be here with you. Um, Let me try to meet your needs and give you the things that you need to be able to make it up that mountain, right?" So, and I was kind of amazed because I had been trying little, like my mental health had gotten so bad, like, my goals were things like eating once a day or brushing my teeth once a night, and or reducing substances. And I had the intention, and it took, I couldn't even go to the grocery stopping at the store. It would take me forever to do that. But like, so it was so slow going. And the cycle of being hard on myself and beating myself up, pressuring myself, having expectations, having unrealistic ideas of how change should happen, it um it really slowed things down. And then as I began to bring in the compassionate approaches, it didn't fix things overnight for sure, but I noticed I was getting caught less, and the periods of hitting the wall and being down for the count were less. And the moments where all of a sudden I felt the energy or I felt the ability to do the thing that I wanted to do were more. And my experiences of going through stress and struggle, difficult things, it's not that they weren't still difficult, because they were. And it's so hard to describe how being there for yourself and being gentler and having some compassion, it just changes it. It doesn't make those stresses disappear, but your experience, or my experience of it, is somehow softer and gentler and not quite as bad as it had been using the other approaches. So I was like, okay, Dr. Kristen Neff, I guess you are right. This compassion stuff works. And Bessel van der Kolk and Janina Fisher and all the kind of the leaders in the trauma field, they're also talking about compassionate approaches as a treatment to many of the diagnosed mental health types of things. And to begin with, again, I was very skeptical, that, oh, how can compassion be a treatment for my PTSD, right? But it had absolutely, it absolutely is. And pretty much everybody I've worked with, and most of the people I've met in life, it's like we all have that critic. Many, many, many people out there in the world talk about the critic, and they have many different strategies or whatever. For me, it's been IFS, and it's been learning in internal family systems, and it's been learning why that critic is there, and really validating and acknowledging that critic as much as the part that wants to do things better, and embracing all of my parts as a whole. They all served a purpose, like that critic kept me going. It kept me out of the gutter. It kept a roof over my head. It did keep me, and by and large, out of most harmful relationships. Um, it did a lot of things for me, but at this point in life, it's just like, okay, well, I think I've learned some different ways that I would like to try. So when that critic comes in, I'm like, yeah, I get you. I get you. I get what you're trying to do, but I hear you. But let's maybe try this way because it actually works. Um, it works better and it feels better, right? I'm not sure I answered your question.
Just thank you for sharing that part of your journey. And now I wanted to switch over and I wanted to ask you, what do you love most about being there to help other people in their wellness journey?
I really know what it's like to struggle inside, you know, and I really know what it's like to um, be so hard on myself. And I also know that me and so many other people, it's just like we have this kindness and compassion towards other people, whether it's children or our friends, and yet we're so hard on ourselves. And it just blows me away that the society, I think there are some raising their children this way, but I think a lot of people, it's just like the relationship that we have with ourselves, we were pretty much, most of us, taught that it wasn't important or a priority. To prioritize the relationship with yourself was selfish, self-centered, et cetera, et cetera. And nowadays I think the word narcissist getting bantered about. There are narcissists. It is a problem, but it's become one of those words that's being applied to everybody. Like, oh, you said something about yourself that was, um, I said I was a good president. Does that make me a narcissist? Right. So anyway, like, yeah, so it's just society has a way of demonizing any of us that do put that relationship with ourselves first. And yet, I think what science and reality and my personal experience has shown me is that if you do not have a quality relationship with yourself, your quality of life and your quality of relationships with other people is going to suffer dramatically. So, with working with other people, I just, like to be in a better place with myself, where being with my internal world. I still have nightmares. I'm still working through things. I'm still doing trauma therapy. It's not a perfect thing, but um I have acceptance and I have compassion and I have curiosity where there used to be like judgment and dismissal and avoidance, and I think it's a really limited life if we cannot have a deep, meaningful relationship that is supportive and encouraging with ourselves. And I just, society just does not highlight that by and large. So it's funny when I started out as a coach, I was calling myself a weight loss coach because I had lost 80 pounds and I have experience with that. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure I actually helped anybody lose any weight, but I helped every last one be a little bit nicer to themselves, to because that's what we would start out looking at. It was like, let's set a goal for next week. Let's make it very small so that your chances of success are great. If you don't meet that goal, let's look at why not. 9 times out of 10, well, 10 times out of 10, it was how people were treating themselves, and such wrapped up in this cycle of like, oh, one, they try to set the goal too big, right? I'm going to drink water 7 days a week. It's like, let's just make it once. And then it's like, and then they don't do it, and then they beat themselves up, and there's cycles of shame and do that prevent you from just going, oh, okay, it didn't happen today. Let's try again tomorrow. And that's all about the relationship we have with ourselves, like our beliefs, our language, and how we respond to ourselves. So that's where the real meat of the work always laid for me. So I was quite excited and happy to work with all of my clients to be able to just sort of I'm not one to, the book says it's not about quick fixes, it's not about perfection, and I'm not getting here to heal or cure anybody. But if I can help you just move a couple of steps along your own path to having like a little bit better quality relationship with yourself where you're treating yourself a little bit better, that's going to help you across the board, because if you can be more compassionate and be a little bit more realistic and have that kind of understanding. We all only have so much capacity and energy, you know, and if when you're struggling to do something that's important to you, if you can come in and sort of encourage yourself and be nice to yourself about it, if I can help you do any of that, then I'm golden. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want for us all, so
If someone wants to work with you, what can they expect?
it's pretty much personal to each person. I've worked with different people on uh different things. Pretty much, yeah, like we'll pretty much always look at the relationship with the self. I like to think of my coaching as like it's therapeutic, but it's not therapy. It's
Mhm.
trauma informed, but it's not therapy. So if and when we run into things that are like deeper and go beyond the scope of, my current education, then I would often refer that person, like this might be something you want to go unpack in counseling, but there's always room to there's always a safe space to share your feelings. And I think even that many of us have never actually had that, just that really safe space that's going to be non-judgmental, that and my range of experience in my own life has given me this beautiful gift that I have some insight and ability to understand um almost anything anybody shares with me, there's usually just one or at least one thread of whatever that is that I share. And even if there wasn't, I'm not a judgmental person. So it's a free safe space to really kind of explore the things that are holding you back and have a look at your relationship to growth and change. And um definitely it's a place to kind of work on identifying what your values and heart-based desires are so that your efforts towards change and growth do come from that. And then I guess a little bit difference between me and a counselor is that I have an action bias as a coach. I have a
Mhm.
responsibility. I'm here to try to help you get from A to B. But if you decide, if we're going from A to B and you decide you don't want to go to B anymore, you actually wanted to go to C, I'm right there with you, right? Um, and really just like A needs a lot of exploring before and then the journey of what is that going to look like? So, um, my little logo on my banner is sustainable, compassionate, and personalized. So I never try to apply a one size fits all to anybody. I want to know about you. I want to know about what works for you. The more feedback somebody can give me, then the easier it is to personalize things, but ultimately answers have to come from the person. But I very much can help guide you. I know what it's like. I have a client right now, and it's like I know what it's like to be asked the question, well, what do you want? What do you want to work on, etc., and not have the answers to that. So, I'm able to provide some suggestions to choose from. But as we work along, hopefully you get the attunement to self gets stronger so that you're more able to identify what it is that you want, what is going to work and what isn't going to work, so that you can give me the feedback as to how I can best support you as a coach. But I think from my own experience, working with a coach in particular, more than a counselor, but a counselor too, is like I'd never really had the experience of being able to be my genuine self and having somebody deeply interested in what I was interested was that was going to hold safe, non-judgmental space for me and encourage me unconditionally to move towards that, to have that love, compassionate, unconditional kind of in nurturing regard mirrored to you can be a real starting place, in my opinion, to be able to grow those things within ourselves. It's most of us have it for other people, but it's not something we've ever taken the time to develop within ourselves towards ourselves, right?
So someone who's listening in the audience might be asking themselves, "Oh, I wonder if Charisma only does this in Canada, or if Charisma offers services outside of Canada, and if so, where can I go to check out Charisma's applications or whatnot?" So, can you answer that?
Sure. Well, I have the towardswellness.ca website, and there's ways to get a hold of me there. We can do Zoom or whatever your preferred method of communication is, pretty much worldwide. Um, and the book, I'll just flash it. The book is available on Amazon worldwide right now. You just have to type in the light switch myth into Google or Amazon and it'll come up. It's available in three formats. As I was telling Ryan earlier, I have an accessibility policy. So if you are interested in any of this and you can't afford it, use the contact form, reach out to me, and I'll be happy to provide you with a free PDF because I come from a place of having been broke most of my life and resources been inaccessible, and I do not agree with our culture that says charge more, charge more, charge more, never lower your price. It's like, no, I'm not about that. I would rather see read the book, get something out of it than, for me to make a couple of royalties. The people that can afford the book, please buy the book. I could use that. But if you can't, please reach out to me. There's also sliding scale coaching. I do have to limit it to a certain percentage, but there's a waiting list if you're not if I can't get you on there right away. But and it's I think I missed answering Ryan's question earlier. We can work on anything that you want to work on, right? Like it all kind of ties into the relationship you have with yourself. And I took a course at one of the colleges here. It was a health studies course or something, and we looked at the stages of change model, the trans-theoretical stages of change model, and the statistics are you're 80% more likely to be successful in the changes that you are trying to work on if you have support, right? And so many of us, we power through, we try to do it on our own. A lot of that independence that many of us have is actually has its roots in trauma, and it's an independence that kind of goes beyond a healthy independence. So that's what the book is there for, because I know I know like 9 out of 10 people don't want to go to counseling. 9 out of 10 people don't want to use a coach. So if you're one of those do-it-yourself person, I'll just figure this out for myself. The book is really intended to take, my 30 plus years of counseling, but particularly these last 10 years that have been transformative, and take the most contemporary approaches and strategies mixed with like a personal experience of it from somebody in the trenches, from somebody who has had addiction issues and trauma issues and PTSD and all kinds of those things, and had to apply this stuff. This is how I have applied it. This is how I have put it together. There's a little bit of original content in there with some of the images and everything that I've had, and then for some of you are never going to pick up a pen and journal because it's just not your thing, and don't even ask me to, and others love to. And so there are journal prompts throughout the book that would allow you to work through the book at a deeper level, or you can do it all in your head. It just depends on who you are and what you like. But the book is a great way to start. I do offer a 30-minute free consultation for us to just kind of like talk and figure out what it is that you would like to work on and whether or not we are a fit. I am usually flexible in pricing, and there is that sliding scale kind of option. And yeah, I have it on there that there's a you can do a one or two off kind of strategic thing. So where you let me know what it is you want to work at, and we kind of laser focus in on what some get you a game plan for the next 3, 6 months or a year so that you've got your own little plan to go through. And I personally find I'm brilliant. And I can figure out most things for me, but it is amazing what somebody else's perspective and insight into my own world or my own thoughts or my own beliefs or my own strategies can can do. And by being open to that, I have expanded my world and improved my quality of life beyond reason because there's just so much I was only able to see a certain way until somebody else helped me see it another way. And then that was my choice whether or not I wanted to adapt that or not. But it's just the power of having somebody else to kind of take a look at the things that you've been looking at can be very invaluable in my place. But yeah, worldwide, I can work with you. The book's available worldwide. And yeah, it's change and growth and healing. It's all sort of universal, whether or not you want to drink more water or you want to get fitter or you want to lose some weight or you want to reduce your substances or you want to be nicer to yourself or you want to improve the quality of relationship you have with other people. There's some universal themes in all of that that we can look at and work on together.
Excellent. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast, for connecting with me, first of all, and for sharing the work that you do, also for sharing your journey. And now to end this episode, I ask every guest the same question, and that is, Charisma, what is your truth that heals?
I used to think that becoming whole meant getting rid of the parts of me that I didn't like or I was uncomfortable with or that had been so maladaptive. And what I learned was that becoming whole and real wellness is actually about learning how to witness, embrace, validate, and be with all of that. It is not a minimization or a getting rid of any part of my history or aspect of myself. It is a learning to turn towards all of it with unconditional love. And that by doing so, that creates a new kind of harmony within my system that I think is the true representation of what healing actually looks like.
Thank you so much, Charisma Vere, for sharing your truth that heals and all that you do. Again, your links are, can you share with us again one more time?
Sure, we've got the light switch myth and the ending is .me, but if you just do the light switch myth, it comes up on Google. And towardswellness.ca is the hub um, one, and you can should come up under Towards Wellness. It'll do some throw you around a little bit, but Towards Wellness Coaching. But I'm all over, so I'm on Instagram under Towards Wellness Coaching. I'm on Facebook under Towards Wellness is the group, and Towards Wellness Coaching is the business page, and Charisma Vere is the personal page. I've got a little YouTube channel. Join me. I've got 4 subscribers. Need to grow. And I'm on LinkedIn and my author's page is out there all over the place. So just you can Google Charisma Veer or you can Google the Light Switch Myth or Towards Wellness Coaching and you'll find like just a variety of places to connect with me. And I'm always open and happy to connect with people.
Thanks so much. And I'll be leaving some links in the show notes. So if someone didn't catch the links, I'll be leaving some down there below. So go check it out. And for the audience, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and please share this channel so that other people can discover the truth that heals presented by today's guest, Charisma Vere. And again, Charisma, thank you so much for being an awesome guest on the Truth That Heals podcast.
Okay, thank you so much, Ryan, and keep up the good work. This is an important conversation we've all been having.
Thank